Evening had wrapped the forest in shadows when Jonah, a barefoot 7-year-old, stumbled upon something no one in his small town would ever forget. A man chained to a tree, bruised, bloodied, and abandoned. The emblem on his leather vest, an iron snake coiled around a flaming wheel, spoke of danger and whispered of a biker gang feared by everyone. Most would have turned and run. But not Jonah. Armed with nothing but determination and a rusty hammer from his mother's toolbox, he faced fear head-on. What happened next would change not only a man's life but the entire town, and teach a lesson about courage, kindness, and the power of a single brave heart. But before we dive into what happens next, I'd love to know, where are you tuning in from today? Drop your country in the comment below and please like the video. Thank you. Now let's continue. Evening settled over the forest like a soft blanket, warm light slipping away behind the trees. Crickets hummed, the air smelled of pine and dust, and a lonely dirt road curved through the woods as if it had forgotten where it was going. Not many people used that road anymore. But on this quiet evening, it became the starting point of a story no one in that small town would ever forget. The story began with a boy named Jonah. Jonah was 7 years old, barefoot and skinny, with dust on his legs and smudges of dirt on his cheeks. He lived in a faded trailer on the edge of the forest with his mother, Rosa. She worked double shifts at the diner, coming home late, hands sore and shoulders slumped. Their trailer roof leaked when it rained, the floor creaked, and the fridge was more honest than their landlord. It stayed mostly empty. That day, Jonah had chased a bright green frog across the yard and into the trees. Maybe he was chasing more than the frog. Maybe he was running from the tension that filled the trailer when bills were due and money wasn't there. Maybe he was looking for a part of the world that didn't feel so heavy. He walked deeper into the forest than he'd ever been. The sounds of the town faded until all he heard were rustling leaves and his own breathing. Just when he was sure he'd lost the frog for good, he pushed aside a tangle of branches and stopped dead. Someone was chained to a tree. At first, Jonah thought it was a mannequin or a Halloween decoration. But then he saw the rise and fall of a chest, the slow movement of shoulders, the dried blood on split knuckles. The man's arms were pulled behind the rough trunk of an old pine, thick chains digging into his skin. His head hung forward, hair tangled and matted, sweat and dirt streaking his face. He wore a black leather vest with a large symbol on the back, a silver snake wrapped around a flaming wheel, with bold red words above it. Iron Serpents. Jonah knew that name. Everyone in town did. People whispered it like a curse. Biker gang. Dangerous men. Trouble wherever they went. His heart hammered. His first instinct was to run, to pretend he had never seen any of this. But the man let out a low, broken groan. It wasn't the sound of a monster. It was the sound of someone who had been in pain too long. Slowly, Jonah took a step closer. "Mister," he asked, voice shaking. "Can you hear me?" The man shifted. With effort, he lifted his head. His eyes were a sharp, stormy blue, tired but burning with life. His jaw was rough with stubble. His face scarred in a way that would scare most adults, let alone a child. "You shouldn't be here, kid," he rasped. "Go home." Are you stuck?" Jonah asked, glancing at the chains. The man let out a humorless breath. "Name's Rafe," he muttered. "And yeah, I'm stuck. Some people who used to ride with me decided they were done. Took my bike, beat me up, left me here to die." He said it like he expected no one to care. Jonah looked at the scraped bark, the torn skin, the dry cracks on Rafe's lips. He thought about going home, pretending this was none of his business. But he couldn't shake his mother's words, the ones she always repeated when she helped a stranger at the diner. "If you see someone hurting, you don't walk away." "I'll help you," Jonah blurted. Rafe frowned. "Kid, no. You're gonna get in trouble. Go home." Jonah stepped closer and wrapped his small hands around the chains. He pulled with all his strength. Nothing moved. He tried again, and again. The metal didn't budge, but Jonah's determination did something else. It broke through Rafe's loneliness. Someone was trying. Someone cared that he was there. "What's your name?" Rafe asked quietly. Jonah. Jonah, Rafe repeated. I don't want you hurt because of me. Jonah's arms burned and his fingers ached. Finally he let go and stepped back, breathing hard. His heart was still pounding with fear, but something stronger than fear had taken root. I'm coming back, Jonah said suddenly. Rafe shook his head, chains rattling. Don't. It's too dangerous. You're still here, Jonah answered simply. Then he turned and ran. The run home felt longer than any trip Jonah had ever taken. Roots grabbed at his feet, twigs snapped under his heels, and branches scratched his arms. But he didn't slow down. The sky was turning orange, and he knew he didn't have much time before dark. When the trees finally thinned, he burst out near the trailer park, lungs burning. He raced up the steps to his home and pushed open the door so hard it banged against the wall. Rosa wasn't home yet. He went straight to the old red toolbox shoved under the small kitchen table. The lid squeaked when he opened it. Inside was a mess of tools. A crooked wrench, a cracked tape measure, some nails, and at the bottom, a rusty hammer. Jonah grabbed the hammer, slammed the box closed, and dashed back outside. The sun was lower now, painting long shadows across the ground. Jonah ran toward the trees again, clutching the hammer so tightly his knuckles turned white. The forest swallowed him, but he kept going, heart guiding him back to the pine tree. Rafe's head was bowed when Jonah arrived. For a moment Jonah panicked, thinking he was too late. But then Rafe raised his head and blinked. You came back, he said, disbelief in his voice. Jonah didn't waste time. He darted behind the tree and found the heavy lock binding the chains. He wedged the claw of the hammer under a rusty link and pushed with all his might. The chain creaked but held. Jonah repositioned himself, braced his bare feet in the dirt, and tried again. His arms shook. Sweat slid down his neck. The metal dug into the hammer, fighting him every inch. Jonah, Rafe said hoarsely, you don't have to do this. You've already done more than anyone. Jonah gritted his teeth. You're not staying here, he said. Not while I can still move. He struck the lock with the hammer over and over, each blow echoing through the clearing. His small hands started to sting. The wooden handle bit into his skin. Tears of frustration blurred his vision, but he refused to stop. At one point, the hammer slipped and scraped his knuckles. Blood beaded on his skin. Jonah winced, sucked in a breath and kept going. The sun dipped lower, the air cooling. The forest grew quieter, as if it were watching. Finally, with one more desperate swing, the lock gave a sharp metallic crack. The chain slackened and slid down. Rafe gasped as his arms fell free. The sudden release sent pain shooting through his muscles, and his legs, weak from lack of movement, crumpled. He dropped to his knees, panting. Jonah tossed the hammer aside and hurried around to face him. You okay? Jonah asked, eyes wide with worry. Been better, Rafe managed, a faint smile tugging at his mouth. But I've definitely been worse. He licked his lips and winced. Water, he whispered. Please. Jonah nodded instantly and ran toward the sound of trickling he'd noticed earlier. A small creek ran nearby, its water clear and soft against the stones. He knelt, cupped his hands and scooped up as much as he could, then hurried back, most of it spilling between his fingers. He held his hands under Rafe's chin. Rafe leaned forward and drank what little was left. It wasn't much, but it was enough to wet his throat. Jonah made trip after trip to the creek, hands shaking from exhaustion, feet slipping on roots, but he never complained. Each sip gave Rafe a little more strength. When Rafe finally caught his breath, he looked at Jonah with something like awe. Why'd you really do it? Rafe asked quietly. You don't know me. For all you know, I deserve this. Jonah thought for a moment, then shrugged. I don't know what you did, he said. I just know nobody deserves to be left to die. Those simple words hit Rafe harder than any punch. Darkness was creeping in when they heard it. Vengeance. At first, it was a faint rumble far away, like thunder behind distant hills. Then it grew louder, closer, shaking the ground beneath them. Jonah's heart jumped into his throat. He grabbed the hammer, though he had no idea what he would do with it. Rafe listened, then let out a low breath. "That's my crew," he said. "The real one." Moments later, the dirt road near the clearing lit with headlights. One by one, motorcycles rolled in, engines growling. Men wearing the same serpent emblem on their vests climbed off their bikes, scanning the trees. Their faces were hard, wary, ready for a fight. The biggest one, with a gray-streaked beard and arms like tree trunks, spotted Rafe. "Rafe!" he shouted, voice cracking with relief. The men rushed forward. Up close, they looked even more intimidating. Tattoos, scars, heavy boots, knuckles that had clearly met more than one jaw. But their expressions softened when they saw their leader alive. "What happened?" the gray-bearded man asked. "Got jumped," Rafe answered. "Some traitors thought they'd leave me as a warning. But someone found me first." He rested a hand on Jonah's shoulder and gently pulled him forward. "This kid," Rafe said. "Jonah. He cut me loose. Brought me water. If not for him, I'd still be decorating that tree." Every biker turned to stare at Jonah. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other, feeling very small under their intense gaze. But he didn't run or hide. He simply stood there, barefoot, hands scratched, eyes steady. The gray-bearded man crouched down a little. "You did all that for a stranger?" he asked. Jonah nodded. "He was hurt," he said. "Nobody else was there." Silence stretched, thick and meaningful. These were men who understood loyalty and betrayal, pain and payback. They were not easily impressed. But the sight of this little boy standing beside their leader, unafraid, moved them in a way few things did. One of them muttered, "Kid's got more guts than most grown men I know." Rafe straightened as much as he could. "We're paying this back," he said firmly. "With interest." A week later, the small town woke up to a roar. Engines filled the air. So loud windows rattled and coffee cups vibrated on kitchen tables. People rushed to their porches and peeked through curtains, fear tightening in their chests. Down the main road, a river of motorcycles rolled in. Not 10. Not 100. Nearly 2,000 riders poured into town, leather vests and chrome glinting in the sun. The sight was scary enough to make most people think one thing: trouble. Instead of stopping at the bar or crowding the gas station, the bikers rode straight toward the worn-down trailer park on the edge of town. Rosa stepped outside, heart pounding. Jonah hovered behind her, watching in awe. The engines cut off one by one, leaving an almost ringing silence in their wake. From the crowd, Rafe stepped forward. He looked different, cleaner, stronger, standing tall despite everything he'd been through. In his hands, he carried a brand new bicycle, bright blue with shiny handles and thick tires fit for any dirt road. "Afternoon, ma'am," Rafe said, nodding to Rosa. "You must be Jonah's mom." Rosa swallowed. "Yes," she answered carefully. "I am." Rafe turned to Jonah and held out the bike. "For the bravest kid I've ever met," he said. "You gave me my life back. This is just a small way of saying thank you." Jonah stared, stunned. His eyes sparkled as he touched the handlebars. "Is this really for me?" he asked. "Every inch of it," Rafe replied. Rosa's eyes filled with tears. "You helped him?" she asked Jonah, voice breaking. "He was chained up, Mama," Jonah said softly. "I couldn't leave him." Behind Rafe, the bikers spread out through the trailer park. Some carried toolboxes and ladders. Others hauled bags of groceries and boxes. They fixed the broken steps on the front porch, patched the leaking roof, repaired the cracked window, and filled the kitchen with food. One biker handed Rosa an envelope thick with cash. "For rent, bills, whatever you need," he said. Neighbors watched with wide eyes. The same men everyone feared were now hammering nails, painting walls, and laughing as Jonah tried out his new bike in circles. Before they left, Rafe faced Jonah and Rosa. "You're family now," he said simply. If anyone messes with you, they answer to all of us. Rosa wiped her cheeks. I don't know how to thank you, she whispered. You already did, Rafe said. You raised a kid who refused to walk away from a stranger in chains. That's more than enough. Time passed. Jonah grew taller. The story of the barefoot boy and the chained biker spread far beyond their town. People told it in truck stops, diners, and campgrounds. Rafe changed as the years rolled on. The man who had once cared only about the club and revenge now cared about something bigger. Jonah's act of mercy had cracked open a part of him he didn't know existed. He steered his riders away from pointless fights and toward rides that raised money for kids' shelters, food banks, and families in need. One year, at a huge biker rally attended by thousands, Rafe was asked to speak. The crowd expected wild stories of the road. Bar brawls, close calls, police chases. Instead, Rafe stepped up to the microphone and told the story of a 7-year-old boy. He talked about the tree, the chains, the heat that burned his skin, the thirst that felt like fire in his throat. He told them how he thought no one would come. And then how a little kid with dirty feet and determined eyes refused to leave him behind. He didn't ask what I'd done, Rafe said, voice rough with emotion. He didn't ask if I deserved it. He just saw someone hurting and decided that was reason enough to help. The crowd grew quiet. I used to think power was fear, Rafe continued. That respect came from making people step out of your way. But that boy taught me something. Real power is kindness. Real strength is helping the weak when nobody's watching. He paused, eyes shining. Angels don't always have wings, he said. Sometimes they have scraped knees and a rusty hammer. Some of the toughest men in the crowd wiped their eyes. That night, when they rode out under the stars, their engines still thundered. But a different message rode with them. That even in a rough world, compassion could change everything. And somewhere, in a small town where an old trailer stood a little straighter and a blue bicycle still leaned against the wall, a boy who once chose kindness over fear had changed hundreds of lives without even trying. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness and courage still exist in the world, don't let it end here. Hit like, share, and subscribe to Echoes of Life Stories so we can keep bringing you real, inspiring tales that restore faith in humanity. Every small gesture helps us continue spreading stories of hope, resilience, and compassion. Comment below with angels still exist, if you believe even the smallest act of kindness can change a life. Join our family, and let's keep celebrating the heroes we don't always see, the ones who make the world better, one story at a time.